Welcome to our Posh podcast. I'm Gabrielle, and I'm here with my two beautiful co-hosts, my daughter Marcella.
Hello.
My son's girlfriend Whitley.
Hi.
And our DJ Spider.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest. Welcome, Jason B.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Posh podcast is about a safe place where we have guests on that have all kinds of stories to share, and it's a safe place so you can talk about everything. That's our mission. We don't judge. Today is very interesting because it's about bipolar disorder, and you took it a step further. You made a movie.
Right.
You made a whole entire movie, which is amazing, and we got to see it yesterday. The three of us did, and I was, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, at first, we told you this before, but we didn't realize it was you playing. And tell us a little bit. The movie is about yourself and your story, correct?
Right. Yeah. So, in the late '90s, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
How old were you?
20-something, late 20s, and it was a hard road to find stability for me. And even when I was diagnosed, I didn't take it seriously. And I used it kind of as an excuse to do stupid things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, drinking too much and promiscuous sex and whatever. And it's like, well, I'm bipolar. That's what we're supposed to do, kind of shit. So later in 2007, I guess, is when I had a massive psychotic break that probably should have landed me in the hospital, but somehow I didn't end up in the hospital. And it was at that moment that I realized I was either going to kill myself or get my shit together and be a father to my son. And so I chose the latter, to be a father.
Could you, I want to know more from the beginning. Like, tell us from your childhood, what was your childhood like? Tell us a little bit, how your teen years were and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we can get to what happened.
Yeah, so... it's not too different from a lot of people my age. When I was young, my parents divorced, but one of my earliest memory that I have is standing in the kitchen between my mother and my father, screaming at each other, fighting. And that just kind of encapsulates the childhood. It was, chaos. And,
was there a lot of it?
Yeah. But they divorced when I was 3, so he left and blessed me with some abandonment issues.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, it was just myself, my sister, younger sister, and my mom raising us. And she did the best she could, but there was still a lot of chaos and turmoil, and a lot of emotion.
So your dad left it when you were 3?
Yeah.
And you never saw him?
I did. It was a while, and then he'd come back, and then he'd leave again, and he moved to Boston for a while, and then I guess I was 6 or 7 when he came back the last time and stayed here, but I only saw him every other weekend. It was one of those situations where every other weekend dad, and he was more, that cool, fun uncle than he was a dad. And so I guess growing up, I didn't really have that father figure constant in my life.
Mm.
So that made things difficult as I got into my teen years and puberty and growing up, and the emotions and the hormones and everything gets really confusing, and there was no one there to tell me what's going on.
Did you still see him when you were a teen? Every other weekend?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess in early teen years, I remember it's interesting because I never had a moment where I got along with my mom and my dad at the same time. It was either I got along with my mom and I was fighting with my dad, or I got along with my dad and I was fighting with my mom. There was never a time, even to this day, there's never a time where I get along with both of them.
Still now?
Still now.
Oh, no.
So I remember I wasn't seeing my dad, and I was at odds with my mom, so I felt, just alone and conflicted, and I was diagnosed with ADD and dyslexia when I was younger. Later find out that's a misdiagnosis. I've always had the bipolar.
Did you get medication for the ADD and stuff?
No,
Okay.
I didn't. And so there's that too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the unmedicated aspect as a teen with the hormones and the bipolar on top of each other. So everything was just going so crazy in my head.
So
and
were you a wild teen?
I wasn't really.
No.
I was actually the opposite of that. I was very calm and seemed together. But in this moment when I was disassociated with both my parents, there was so much going on in my head. I wanted to feel like I just wanted to calm it down. So in the movie, I kind of addressed this. I went into my room, I took my shirt off, and I grabbed a wire hanger, and I started beating myself in the stomach with it. And something about that sharp pain gave me something to focus on. And because of that, my mental craziness calmed down.
So that's actually accurate. Like a lot. Can I talk about the movie right now, or you
course.
want to talk about it later?
No, you can.
I didn't know.
I think it's cool that it like ties into it.
So the movie. Well, I think it's cool that you wrote it, right? You directed it and you acted in it.
I wrote, produced, directed, acted, edited. I was chef on some days. I was janitor.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So the movie is
I
called
even wrote
Donovan.
some of the songs.
Oh
You
wow!
did.
Yeah.
The movie is called Donovan. I want to show everyone what the DVD looks like.
Oh yeah.
Is very cool.
Thanks.
So you did all that, and then how much of it? I mean, I know it says inspired by actual events, but the hanger and I was wondering what that was anyway. Like why you were doing that.
Yeah.
And that's accurate. Like you did that.
It's very similar to why most people actually get into cutting.
Cutting. Okay.
And it's the same reason, and same goal is to settle down the emotions that are going so crazy that you
So
can't
when you
calm
hurt
down.
yourself, that settles down the emotion.
Yeah,
like
because
for real.
it gives my mind something to focus on physically, whereas everything emotionally is so broad and out there, and I can't hone it in. So if I have something physical to focus on, it kind of calms it down. And then there's something also about losing control in a manic moment that afterwards the brain I was told by a therapist, I don't know if this is true or not, but brain cells die. And so that's why there's that calm afterwards, and which is kind of scary in itself.
Yeah.
What made you pick a wire hanger? Like,
I think the movie Mommy Dearest, if you
I was just gonna say that. I remember that. That's
Yeah.
the only movie I know from where that
no
happened.
more wire hangers.
Yes.
So I grabbed a wire hanger.
Wow.
And does it hurt like at the moment? Or are you getting the same, when people say they cut, they get like a high? Is that what's happening? Do you feel like, does it hurt?
It hurts like hell, but there's also the high. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe it's the adrenaline that calms the mind down. I don't know.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That's very interesting.
And so when I did it in the movie, we didn't have any stunt stuff to do. So I did it for real. I'm like,
Oh.
I can't believe I used to do this.
Oh my gosh. Did the kid in the movie too do it? No.
No. The kid in my movie is actually my oldest son.
Oh, he's so Stop. He is so cute.
What?
That's your son.
Yeah. And the one that played my son, Evan, is my youngest son.
Oh.
So it's the darkest family project ever.
Hi, well, it's good to, it comes out in art. Like as a dancer, I choreograph through life experiences. So I think that it's probably, what's the word I'm looking for? Like therapeutic to do something like this. Was it?
Yeah. Therapeutic, cathartic, scary some moments, reliving some of that and it really crawling into my head, and I have to walk away for a minute. And I remember editing when Gavin, my oldest son, was doing that scene, even though I know he wasn't hitting himself. It was so real in that moment when I was editing it. I had to step away. I was crying in that moment. I was like, I can't watch this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Did your parents know that you did that?
I don't think so. I don't. I think even to this day they don't know. So if they listen to this, they do now. But
Did they watch the movie?
my dad did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mom hasn't watched the movie?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know.
Oh, you're at odds with her today.
So teen, you were not like drugs or anything like that, just more.
Right. My mom loves to tell the story that I was a perfect child until I turned 18, then I was holy hell. So when I turned 18, that there was a crossover there, and then I started drinking a bit, and then later in life, early 20s, I got into some of the drugs and shit like that. But at an early age, I didn't do any of it. I was
Nothing.
like clean, and I even wanted to be a cop at one point in time. I mean, I was not the typical bipolar person.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it.
So when would the bipolar for you, when do you feel like that? Like when should you have been diagnosed bipolar? As a teenager, or do you feel like it was after 18?
That's hard to answer because it was so hidden that I don't know it could have been diagnosed back then. You know, knowing what we know now, but because back then it was not very common, and it wasn't a well-known or educated about topic or diagnosis, whatever. So if you take that scenario now, I still don't know that it would be diagnosed correctly, just because I was kind of different from the typical.
And you're the mania. You have mania, bipolar, or
both?
Oh, both.
So bipolar is what used to be called manic depression. So I have both, extreme mania and extreme depression. And my particular case, I have mixed episodes. So I can be very manic and still feel depression, or I can be very depressed and still have episodes of mania.
Okay.
So it gets really confusing.
So when early 20s, when did you meet your wife?
First one.
Oh, you're multiple. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How many times have you been divorced?
1.5.
1.5? Are you getting divorced now?
Yeah, the second one's not done.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So first one.
Yeah. That was mid-20s, and we were together for about 10 years. I think we were married 4 of them, and my oldest Gavin was from that marriage. And we divorced when he was 3, and seeing that parallel, seeing that parallel really shook me up. So that was also a defining moment for me to say, I'm not going to do to this kid what my dad did to me, and make sure that I'm always there. So she and I agreed that we would have split joint custody, and I'd have him a week, she'd have him a week. That's what we've been doing ever since. And then I met wife number 2. In 2007, and we've been together 11 years, and had been together 11 years.
So when did you start divorce proceedings?
How
long ago?
In August is when she told me she was done, and kind of blindsided me. And,
you didn't expect it at all?
3 months ago.
Yeah.
You had no idea?
No.
No idea?
Mm-mm. I mean, I knew we had our problems, but I thought we were going to work them out. I thought we were going to figure it out.
So the blonde in the movie
is not my wife.
It's not your wife, and is not like that scenario? Like your friend? Did your friend sleep with your?
Not as far as I know.
Wife. Okay. Well, we were watching. We were like, is that in his head? We weren't sure. That whole scene when you walk in on your friend and
that did not happen in real life.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I was just curious. I didn't know if that was your wife now.
No.
The blonde.
No.
So the second son is with your second marriage.
Yeah. On my own Jerry Springer show.
Oh my God. Trust me, I've seen
it's not
even
that bad.
more multiple. It's not too bad.
I was expecting like 5 or 6 ex-wives. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, and I got into a car wreck 2 weeks ago, and they totaled my truck. So I was talking to my therapist the other day, and I said, if I'm a walking country song, I lost my wife and my truck.
Oh yeah.
And
oh my God.
Deadpan. She didn't even smile, nothing. She goes, did y'all have a dog?
Oh.
I was like,
Do you?
damn, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I love my therapist. She can do that shit.
Amazing. Wow. So blindsided. When you get blindsided like that, does that throw you off? Like especially with when you have bipolar disorder, isn't that like traumatic things can set it off?
Yeah. So last year the movie came out, and it didn't do what I was hoping it would do.
Meaning?
And like getting out there and exposure, the just finding an audience, it's really hard to do with a movie. It's hard enough making the movie, but then getting people to watch it is even harder. And so, in my head, I guess logically I knew it wouldn't take off immediately, but because it didn't, it really threw me into a massive depression that I didn't even know I was in. So I'd been pretty worthless since last December until August, when my wife told me she was done, and that made it worse. But I got into my psychiatrist and my therapist, and we started working to dig out of it. And because of my 2 kids, they're my deterrent. They keep me from doing the unimaginable, if you will, and I refuse to do that to them. So I didn't. And so we're still digging out the hole.
But your movie won a lot of awards, right?
Yeah, but I tried to take one of those medals to the electric company, and I said, hey, how much will you take off my bill for this medal? And they said, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but I think that's still something to be said for all the work you put in to get stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of the awards it's getting. But, you know, I have to go back to my day job. And
Oh, yeah.
And it's, you know, I want to do another movie, but they're hard.
Expensive.
Yeah, they're hard and they're expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you do that when you have to go back to your day job? How the hell do you do that?
What is your day job?
I'm a graphic designer, online advertising, digital marketing kind of thing. My background is actually really varied. I was a VP of marketing at one company. I was a senior interactive designer at another. I was a copywriter at one. I was an editor at another. So just a lot of creative stuff. But
That's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So,
But I think that's part of the bipolar mind, though, is it allows me to do so many things and shift gears quickly, which was what allowed me to write, produce, direct, all those things with this, because even when you're on set and you have to talk about the direction of the movie as a director, things come up, like a location falls through or an actor doesn't show up. That happened many times. And you've got to rethink the scenes that you're shooting that day because you have everybody else.
mm-hmm.
And so there's rewrites on the fly that you have to do and redirect the scene and then step in as an actor and carry that through.
I mean, I can't even imagine.
I can't either. But have you made a movie before? Did this come out of, like, have you acted before?
I acted in my early 20s. I did some plays and did a little bit of commercial and short stuff. I'd always wanted to write a screenplay, but I hadn't until this idea for Donovan came about. And so I bought books on how to write a screenplay. And as I'm reading the books, I'm writing the screenplay. So kind of go back and forth and learn on the fly. And I mean, it took me a year to write it. And then after that, it took me probably another year to really polish it and make it what I wanted it to be. And I mean, I started writing this in 2010.
That's what she was telling us, that it took a long time to make.
Yeah.
So I was like, from the beginning of you writing to to this, that was the whole span. How long?
7 years.
7
right?
years.
Yeah.
Now, it's amazing, though, to me that I know a lot of people that like wanted to write a book and they start writing a book and then they never finish it. And people want to do a lot of things and they either never get started or they get started and stop. So actually, I mean, that's a lot as one person to do that and get it done and actually get it out and get it like attention and get awards. And I know you probably expected there to be more attention, paycheck, whatever, but that is still an amazing accomplishment, I think.
Thanks.
Also, have you nominated it for an Emmy at all? Because, you know, we learned this with Matthew J.C., who was here. It's all about getting it nominated, and a lot of people don't even do that. Like,
Yeah. No, I don't know anything.
You
about
should
that.
try that.
You
I
need
should
to
maybe talk
try
to
it.
him.
You need to listen to his episode. I don't know which one it is, but it's Matthew J.C. and he has won several Emmys, and he talks about that it's not even that difficult to
Wow. All
because
right.
you don't even think about it.
I'm going to text him when I get out of here.
Yeah, I'll give you his number. You really should try that. So,
He is episodes 66 and 67,
Cool.
and he talked because he has
his
a movie
is
premiere,
releasing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he's
Are y'all
got
going to
an
be
Emmy.
there? I may actually be there.
We're gonna try to.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
That's where I am. I'm on the try list.
Yeah, the try.
So, but that, I mean, I think it's absolutely possible to do that too. I mean, you won. I mean, it won. I even have it.
It
All
won
these little-
Best Picture at Bare Bones Film Festival. I got Best Lead Actor there. We got 3 Rising Star Youth Awards. It took Best Dramatic Feature at the Fort Worth Indie Film Fest and the Only Human Award, which celebrates humanity within film. And it played at the New York City Mental Health Film Festival 4 weekends ago.
Oh wow!
And I got to go to New York to support it and talk about it, and that was really cool.
That's
That
awesome.
was amazing.
But
Those are
that's-
big things.
I know
That-
that.
absolutely. I'm not
massive.
trying to downplay any of it. I'm absolutely appreciative of what it does, and I'm proud of it. You know, not trying to make it sound like it's not doing something great, like it is. You know, the best thing about this is beyond the awards are the emails that I get from people saying that watching this movie helped me realize that I need to reach out for help, or help me understand what my friend is going through, or whatever. And I get those emails all the time. I mean, that's what it's about.
Right.
And really, that's why I would like the broader audience. It's not so much about the, hey, I want fame and glory, because I'm too old for that shit. I don't care. It's about finding that audience and helping people and really getting it out there so that people understand what this really is and how dangerous it can be. But at the same time, how you can live a life with it without feeling that danger. You know, I tell people this movie will walk you through hell but leave you inspired afterwards. So I think it's an accurate depiction.
It is.
Yeah,
very
really.
much so. Yeah. When you said when all that happened and then it threw you in a depression, do you think that has something to do with your wife leaving you?
I think it's part of it. Yeah. I think there's more to it, but I think that's part of it. You know, I tend to downplay my awards. I tend to be a little negative and have anger issues. So that had a lot to do with it too.
We talk about that a lot, how every day when we get up, we have to think only positive.
Right.
Yes.
I'm working on that.
Yeah. I read, have you ever read the book 40 Days to a Joy-Filled Life?
Yeah.
It's really cool because I'm super ADD and I can't read. Like
That's
this
why I don't
paragraph
read.
is rough, but it's very short. So it makes it easy if you have a hard time focusing on reading. And I tried, you're supposed to read one a day, and I tried, but it's taken me like a year to read.
Way more than 40 days.
Yeah. But I read one that said that you can't think negative when you cancel it out with a positive. Like it's literally not possible. So I think we all tend to sometimes think negative out of you're bad about it too. That's why I sent it to you, because we think the worst thing, but it says to try to replace it with positive, and you just won't be able to think negative. But it's hard because every morning you have to wake up, and when there's shit going on, it can be rough.
And then Chris Sapphire told us we have to read Battlefield of the Mind, which I just ordered. Have you read that?
No, but sounds
Get that too.
like something I've been through.
You should read it.
And you're supposed to say that's a lie. Like when you're having anxiety or negative feelings, you're supposed to say like that's a lie and not happening.
You liar.
Fear, he is a liar.
Yes. We've heard that a lot the past few weeks, actually.
Yep.
It's a great song. Zach Williams, I think, is a Christian singer, actually. It's a really, really good song.
So the company, it's called, I have it somewhere.
Brilliant Mania Films.
Brilliant Mania Films. That's very, it's a cool spin of it. Was that created so that there could be more movies made? Is that what the intention was, or was it just for this one?
Yeah, I did a short film before Donovan just to kind of get my feet wet and make sure I knew what the hell I was doing. So I did this whole process, write, produce, direct, act, but it was 3 people instead of this whole cast.
Right.
And it was one location instead of however many this was. And I did that under Brilliant Mania Films as well. It's called It Was a Good Day. It kind of talks about the different perceptions of what makes a good day.
How much does it cost to make a movie like that?
There's like no one true answer. There's no one size fits all. It just depends on so many factors, and it depends on so many factors, and it also depends on how much you're doing yourself. You know, I didn't have to hire a director. I didn't have to hire extra producers. I didn't have to hire an editor. I didn't have to hire a colorist, that kind of thing. And how far you can stretch a buck. And I'm a cheap motherfucker, so.
So did you get funding for it, though? Did you get investors for it? That's awesome.
So Raymond King and David Visser are my executive producers. And I was already shooting some of this movie, and when I met them and talked to them about it, and I think what really drew them to this project was that I was already going forward. It wasn't a matter of me saying, hey, I've got this good idea. Now I'm waiting around for money. It was, hey, I've got this good idea and we're going. You want in? Because I'm going to be 3 steps further in a week. So, so they really, I think that attracted them to the project, and they're very proud of how it turned out too. Raymond can't make it through the movie without crying too. So it's awesome.
Is that, he plays the...
He's the one that plays the doctor, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So, I want to know about your sons being in the movie. Have they seen the movie?
My oldest one has seen the movie. My youngest one's too young to see
How
the
old
movie.
is he?
He's 15 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was, I think, 12 when we shot that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Dang.
This thing took forever. But yeah, he came to the premiere last year. He got to stand up with everybody. He got to talk a little bit. It was pretty cool. So he was 14 then, but yeah, he thought it was pretty neat.
So do you talk to the boys about?
I talked to my oldest about it. My youngest is too young to understand any of this. I mean, he's 8 now, so you know, I want to protect, for lack of a better word, him from that until he's old enough to understand and have an actual conversation with.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing I did with Gavin. As he got older, then we started talking about that idea of you know, why Daddy acts the way he does sometimes.
Now,
And-
how is he?
Yeah.
Does he have any?
He has ADD, but he seems to be coping with it well. You know,
Is he artistic?
Yeah, he is. He likes to draw a lot. He's good at drawing.
I feel like that always helps the ADD person.
Yeah,
The
and
art.
he's a musician as well. He plays
Oh, yeah.
percussion, so
Okay.
that's what I did. I think he's doing it because I did it, but he ended up liking it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
So, but he's pretty understanding for.
he's an old soul. He is amazing. Sometimes, you know, even now with this divorce, he's been kind of a rock without realizing how stable he is.
The new one. The new divorce. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
Yes,
The new
the
one.
brand new
The
divorce.
brand new one.
It still smells like leather.
What's early? He says August.
Yeah, it's very new.
Yeah.
And there was no like even trying to fix it or anything. It was just no.
She said she had tried for 9 years. I shrugged my shoulders.
Well, I am very sorry about that.
Me too.
I wanted. This is cool because I know that the DVD has the front and the back, but I like the two faces.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
I think it really shows what.
Yeah, and that was the goal of that. If I could find the damn posters, I'll bring you one. But it's a full size of that with the two faces against each other, and it pretty much encapsulates what this is about. You know, there's that moments of extreme sadness and guilt and hopelessness, and then there's the other side of it that's superhuman and indestructible, which will destroy yourself if you let it get out of hand, because we're not indestructible.
Right.
And-
Why? What?
Go ahead.
Sorry. What's the name? Donovan. Why did you choose Donovan?
So, after my first divorce, the old one that doesn't smell like leather anymore, I started watching this show called Burn Notice on TV, and I don't know, I just loved the show, and it was one of those, you know, comforts that I could just get lost in it and not worry about or think about what was going on.
Mhm.
And the lead actor, he played. He's a bit older than a typical lead actor for this kind of show, which was kind of action-oriented spy show.
James Bondish.
Yeah, he's a burned spy, and he has to help people out. So it's kind of James Bondish meets MacGyver kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like I'd seen him do an interview where he talked about how he wasn't the typical pick for this show as a lead because of his age. You know, he's a little bit older, but he was grateful for the opportunity, and he went in, he nailed it, and he got it. And that kind of inspired me because, you know, I'm not getting younger, and I felt like if this guy can do this, then there's something I still can bring to the table regardless of my age. And his name was Jeffrey Donovan, so I used his last name, Donovan.
Oh,
Okay. Like that.
Yeah.
And what are the plans for, like, when did this come out exactly, and what are you, like, do you still put this out in like film festivals? Like, where is this going now? Or can you still do stuff with it, or how does that work when you make a movie? I don't even know.
Yeah, so we held a Dallas premiere last summer, so it was June of 17, and this was cool because it was at Mockingbird Station or Angelica at Mockingbird, and it was in a big theater, and it was completely sold out. So there were like 300 people there.
what?
Dang.
That's
Wow.
great.
Yeah, it was amazing, and you know, and a lot of these are friends and family, of course, but there were so many people there that none of us knew. So that was pretty
Yeah.
cool to see how it branched out, and again, I mean, it was sold out, and we were going to have a Q&A at the end of the film, like you normally do for indie movie first coming out, whatever. So, my guesstimation is if you have 30-40% of your audience stick around for a Q&A, you're doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of that, we'd forgotten to tell everybody we were doing a Q&A. So some people left the theater and we're running down there. Wait, we're doing a Q&A. But 90% of that audience stayed to hear about, the making of film, the kind of thing like that. And some of the people that left when they heard we were in there doing a Q&A came back in.
Oh, that's
that was
very cool.
And then, most of the time these Q&As are questions like, how long did it take you to do the movie? What did it cost? What was the hardest part of shooting? Whatever it was. And the first question was along those lines. I don't remember what it was because it was overshadowed by the second question, which somebody asked was, why did you choose this topic? And I'm really open one-on-one about the whole bipolar thing. I don't mind talking about it. But this was the first time in front of almost 300 people. I'm going to say, I'm like, oh, shit. Deep breath. Here we go. We're doing this. So I shared a little bit about my story and why I made this. Based off of my story. And then the coolest thing I've ever seen in Q&A happened. And it was that session was no longer about me. It was no longer about the film we just watched. It was about people taking turns in the audience, standing up and sharing their stories about how mental health or mental illness has affected them or their families.
Wow.
Complete strangers talking about it openly. And I was like, this is why I did it.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And we were there for so long, they had to kick us out of the theater. And then we're in the foyer for so long, they had to kick us out of the building.
We're closing.
Right. They're like, dude, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And then we're out front for a long time talking. The crowd dwindled down as we got out, but it was.
That's cool.
I was going to ask you what the reaction was when that happened.
Yeah. So, and actually, I had a guy outside videoing people as they were leaving the theater to get their reactions off, and I got a cool little compilation video that you can take a look at. I think it's on that website somewhere. But
oh yeah, I'd love to see that.
Cool.
I didn't find that.
Yeah, it might be on the press page, so I'll send you a link to it.
Oh yeah, I would love to see that. I'm gonna read the critics. I'm gonna read one of them. It says, if ever we have needed independent film to fill the void Hollywood leaves in storytelling, we're in that time. Jason B has spent over half a decade, along with his blood, sweat, and tears, to do so with Donovan, and it shows. That's very amazing.
Yeah, that was a great one. Blood, sweat, and tears for sure too.
Right. And then I actually want to ask you, is there anything you want to tell us before, because the next episode I want to do a little recap about the whole movie, like talk about scenes and why they happened and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But is there anything you want to say before that we missed, maybe asking you about the movie, making it?
I guess for people that have no idea what we were talking about, the synopsis itself is about a recently divorced advertising director who tries to be a good father to his young son while being torn apart by his own bipolar disorder, which mirrors pretty much what I was going through in that time. And, that's about it.
So that's
watch
perfect.
it. Go watch
that's perfect. Yes, everyone watch it, and please give us your social media handles.
Oh yeah, so the website is donovanthemovie.com, DONOVAN, themovie.com, and that's where you can buy a DVD, digital downloads. Soundtrack is on there. I actually wrote a few of the songs on there. It was kind of cool.
I liked the music in it.
Me too.
I really did.
Cool. There's actually there's a cool story about that if we have time for it.
We do.
I was in a band years ago, another lifetime ago. It was a goth industrial band.
Oh, wow.
You can picture this doing goth industrial, right? And I had more hair, and it was down to here, But anyway, we had a drummer. His name was Peter, and he was freaking amazing. He was so good that I knew we wouldn't keep him because he would find something better than us and move on. And he did. But he was just one of those magical musicians that you just knew was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he left, and then eventually Gavin was born, and the band kind of broke up, so I couldn't really go out at night screaming on a stage because I got diapers to change now and stuff like that. So when I'm making I started out making spec trailers to try to raise some of the money to make this movie. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell am I going to do for a score? Because I'm doing enough. I don't want to take on the score.
Right.
I don't think I could do that justice by myself, and I don't have the equipment to make it sound good, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, Peter's name popped up in my head. And I was like, wonder what he's up to. So I look him up. Dude's living in New York doing scores for movies.
Oh my
I was like, son of a bitch. So I emailed him and he was like, hell yeah, man, let's get together. So
That's cool.
That
So-
is
Yeah, what
so
a
cool.
great story.
music by Peter Lobo is the guy I used to have a band with, and he was my drummer. And
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
so then
That is an amazing story.
so I reached out to a lot of local bands to see if they'd be interested in lending some of their music to the film, and a few of them did, and amazing songs like from Moonlight Native and Reaction, just some wonderful music. But some of the other people were like, well, where are you going to pay me? I'm like, dude, I'm in the same beat up van trying to get from one gig to the other off the $50 gas money I made from the previous gig as you are. And it didn't work out. So I'm talking with Peter and I'm like, what the hell we're going to do? We need another, 5 songs or so. And I was like, what if we do it? What if we make the songs? And he's like, well, do you think you could do that? I was like, I don't know. But I've got to figure out a way to do it so that my voice doesn't sound like the guy talking. So,
Like that.
So you sang too?
so yeah, so
That's cool.
so some of the songs
ton.
we tried. There's that scene with Haley at Donovan's house where he's talking about his divorce and he tries to tell her that he's bipolar and he has a hard time with that and everything. The song playing in the background is the first one we did, and so when I got the lyrics written and he had the music together, I went in and recorded. I recorded my natural voice and I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, you can totally tell this guy's talking is the same guy that's singing. It's a little distracting. It's weird. So I hooked up this vocoder. And I turned the formant up on it just slightly. It's almost like it's like if you were sucking on helium, but not quite as extreme. Just a tad, right? Just enough to change the voice. And so I start singing, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds different." But the vocoder itself put this weird digital noise on it, and it's a soft song. I'm like, "That's not gonna work. That sucks." And then I was listening to the voice. I was like, "I think I can do that without the vocoder." So I unplugged it.
You did your own voice.
So I changed my voice and started singing it. I was like, oh my God, this fucking works. So
How would you know how to write music?
I'm a musician
Oh,
too.
well, yeah, that's
so
true.
yeah, so
That's crazy.
yeah,
so many talents.
and that song actually I just finished a music video for, and I'm either going to put it up today or sometime this week.
Tattoo. Jeez.
Yeah.
Did you direct it?
Well, it was just me.
Oh,
Me
it's
and
just
my iPhone. That was
Oh,
Oh, cool.
it. Yeah.
wow. I
Yeah.
can't make music videos
Oh.
with my iPhone.
And the last cool story about the music, because this is the best. So, Johnny Marr, if you're familiar with him, you know Johnny Marr?
Oh, yeah.
So Johnny Marr is the guitarist for the Smiths, 80s band from the 80s. He was the guitarist and the co-writer, and he was kind of the brains of the Smiths actually, because he wrote all the music, and Morrissey was the face. He was the voice, and so that was the whole dynamic there. And when Johnny Marr left the Smiths, he played with the Pretenders, he played with the Pet Shop Boys. He's like the who's who of rock and roll, right? And now he has a solo career, and he's got 4 or 5 albums out, and he just played here recently too. It was a great show. Dude is phenomenal. So just one of my guitar heroes, and I somehow got the trailer, an early version of the trailer to him, and asked if I could use one of his songs off of his solo album, and he was like, hell yeah, he liked it. And so he had his manager call me and work with me to get to the record label and secure rights to use Newtown Velocity in the movie.
Oh, wow.
And so Johnny Marr is on my freaking movie. How
That's
cool is
pretty
that?
awesome.
Cool.
That's very cool.
So when he played here in, I think it was either late August or early September, so it was like a weird time for me. I went to see him, and I took a movie, and I camped out back after the show, and he came out, and you could tell he did not want to talk to fans right now, because he was like, this number hiding behind a security guard, and all these people are like, Johnny, will you sign this? Johnny, will you sign my poster? Or will you sign my boob or whatever? And I just walked right up to him in front of everybody. I was like, can I just give you something? He's like, yes, you can give me something. And so I showed it to him. He's like, oh, are you Jason? I was like, yeah. And
That's awesome.
yeah, so it was really
That's
cool.
cool.
I got to give my guitar hero a copy of the movie that he was on, and
That's very,
That was neat.
very cool.
All comes full circle.
Yeah, really full circle.
yeah.
On that note, give your social media
My social media.
handle too.
So on Twitter, I'm the Jason B, Bee. like a bumblebee. It's the hardest, easiest last name in the world because I always have to spell it. So that's me on Twitter, and my Facebook is pretty locked down. I don't do much on Facebook, but Donovan the movie on Facebook is the movie's handle for
main handle.
Facebook. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We're going to come back and we're going to do a little like recap review of the whole movie, go through it, the scenes and stuff like that, and find out what was the behind the scenes stuff.
Awesome.
So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was great.